Hi, I'm Teresa with Howard from MyBodyMyImage.com, and I'm sitting here with the creator and founder of Hair Rules Hair Salon in New York City, which is the first and only multi-textured salon in the U.S. So first, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The first thing I want to ask you is, it seems pretty obvious, but what does multi-textured mean, and what does a multi-textured salon do?
You know, it's funny because it wasn't until the development of the product line and putting something out there besides Hair Rules, the book, which was independent of the product line, and had a name of its own, and it was just about hair rules, right? Rules for hair, for everybody. And then it wasn't until the product line, we developed the product line. Well, what do we call the product line? Of course it's going to be called Hair Rules. Well, who is it for? And like anything, for me, I've always been in the mindset of celebrating all of us, and ethnicity, I think, had been more of a hindrance and a problem because we had used it to develop all these silos and yada yada yada.
Right.
Multi-textural was like because multiculturalism had been thrown. That word had just been thrown around so randomly, and when you're talking about people's hair texture, you're not challenging their culture.
Right.
There may be some issues related to their culture.
Right.
But when you're talking about hair texture, it's like, okay, well, as many colors of a people as we are, as many hair textures as they are. And ethnicity doesn't necessarily define your hair texture.
Not at all. Because you'll have, like, for instance, if you go to a country like Brazil,
right,
you have every spectrum.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you look in the Jewish culture,
right,
you have every spectrum. That's
right,
from kinky to straight.
Right.
So,
and then there's our little vacuum here in America where it's just like there's African American hair texture.
And what exactly does that mean?
Right. It doesn't exist.
At all. So I think that's really interesting because that is sort of the philosophy for the book, the products, and behind the salon.
Right.
So basically, let's talk about the products for a minute because that goes into this whole thing.
Yeah.
You've created a product that works for all different textures.
Right.
Because other products, what?
Well, because having worked in both fashion and beauty and been in the beauty industry, you just can't shut your eyes to how women have had to shop for their beauty or been relegated to a certain type of beauty. And it starts with the drugstores or the beauty supplies that you walk into. They're very segregated. And there's a black aisle and there's a white aisle. And now we've really summed it up on just two ethnicities. Like, where's the Mexican aisle?
Right. Right.
Where's the Korean aisle? Like, really?
I mean, the East Indian aisle. I'm sorry, I can't find it here.
Right. You know, why don't we care enough about people to actually talk directly to them and care enough about their needs rather than assuming we know what they want? We can really talk to them.
And what I find interesting is that it doesn't your aisle may not always serve you.
Of course it doesn't.
You know what I mean? And you end up sort of in this place where you go like, well, where do I actually fit? The products, even though they're marketed specifically to certain people with certain types of whatever skin tone, hair, texture, they don't always do what they're supposed to do.
Of course they don't. And what's happening is that those same formulas are just repackaged in a bronze bottle, and put in,
with somebody else on the cover.
In essential oils for ethnic hair, and there's just a little more grease over there.
Right, but it's not going to do
and it's like, okay, well, let's put the same drying cleansers, and now let's call them sulfate free. Okay, well, any shampoo that ever existed that suds up should have been sulfate free, but like for a texture that's naturally dry, those are too much.
Right.
And so, you know, where is the knowledge about hair texture?
Right, so or the care for the customer who you're actually serving.
Right, it's offensive to marginalize people based on their skin color.
And what I've always found interesting about Dickey, as he's affectionately known, is that whenever we have conversations like this, it's not about hair.
No, it's never about
It's never about hair, and I think that that's what's so interesting about your philosophy, because when you talk about hair, when you talk about what you do, you talk about the women, and you talk about the people people
Right.
and making them feel a certain way. And can you talk a little bit now about the struggle with texture in terms of women with kinkier hair? Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily
Right.
have to be black to have
Right.
kinky hair.
Right.
And how what you do is kind of built around building self-esteem and a better self-image for women.
I think a lot of it has started with me personally and my experience that gives a greater need for defining purpose in hair or the industry that I chose to get into, and understanding that systematic segregating, discriminating way that society works in, and like, you know, beauty is like it's the immediate outward expression
Right. It's the
of
first,
beauty. It's the first thing, right? And like, why do people think the way they think?